Yes, it is 100% possible to travel for free, and yes, there are even some creative ways that you can get paid to travel. Today we'll cover 10 clever strategies that you may have never heard of. Stick to the end for my absolute favorite way to earn money traveling, plus a free resource. Let's dive in. Alright guys, so some of these ideas do require a little bit of experience to get started, but others don't require any experience at all. Let's start with number one, and that is to become a delivery person. Now, there are two main types of delivery people. The first is to be a yacht delivery person. Now, you're not going to land this job overnight, and you probably won't get rich delivering yachts, but you will have some pretty freaking epic stories. Depending on your experience, you could deliver yachts from the manufacturer to a dealer, or you could deliver them from a dealer to a buyer, or you could sail someone's vessel from wherever they are over to the Caribbean or somewhere to store it for the winter. You're going to need some crew experience, which you can get from volunteering, and also some different licenses depending on what types of jobs you end up getting. One license that you might want to look into is the Coast Guard Captain's License. Now, if getting licensed sounds like too much work for you, or water just isn't your thing, there's another type of delivery job that you can also use to travel, and that is to deliver RVs or cars. It kind of works the same way. You're usually delivering RVs or cars from the manufacturer to the dealer, or between different rental companies. You can do this type of gig part-time or full-time, and you can actually make some decent money doing it, or at least make enough to cover all of your travel expenses and still have some profit left over at the end. For this, you're going to need a commercial driver's license or CDL license, and there's different class licenses that you can look into depending on which type of vehicles that you want to drive. If you want to drive a huge RV or just small camper vans or just cars, but normally the best jobs are going to require a CDL license. Also keep in mind that there are deadlines involved in these types of deliveries, so don't expect any long leisurely camping trips while you're delivering. It's a great way to see a ton of different cool places and get paid to do it, but you're probably not going to have very much time to relax. Alright, the next job on the list is similar to the first one in that it involves water, but there are some differences, and that is to work or volunteer on a yacht. Now, I have some pretty crazy stories of friends that I met while traveling that have done this. For example, when I was traveling in Belize, I met a family who was traveling to all these remote exotic islands around the world, and there was this young guy that was tagging along with the family. So I went up to him and chatted with him and was asking him some questions, and he told me that basically his dream was to visit these remote islands, far off places where you can't really get to unless you have some kind of yacht. So he just walked down to the docks one day and bumped into this family, linked up with them, and they basically let him travel along with them. They cover all his travel expenses, and all he has to do is take turns steering the boat, because someone has to be awake and steering the boat all the time, even at nighttime, so that the family can sleep. And when they're docked at an island, he just helps with some of the chores, but sometimes they're docked for weeks at a time, and so he has tons of time to explore. But you don't have to be a deckhand to do this type of job either. When I was in Thailand, I met a guy in my scuba class, and I'll probably get some of the details wrong, but long story short, he was a gym teacher in France and kind of got bored with what he was doing. So he decided to take a YOLO trip to Australia. He needed a way to make money, so he started teaching exercise classes in a park near the beach somewhere. And people loved his classes because he's a super fun guy, and it turns out that some crew members from this like super luxurious multi-millionaire person yacht came and was taking exercise courses with him. They became friends. They introduced him to this super rich luxury yacht owner, and he liked him as well. And long story short, he ended up joining their crew and sailing to all these far away, amazing different places on this yacht with this millionaire guy. And all he had to do was train him for an hour or two a day, just exercise together. And besides that, he had all of his expenses paid for, and just an amazing opportunity. It's seriously insane some of the crazy opportunities you can stumble on when you decide to step out of your little comfort bubble. If this guy would have just stayed in his comfort zone and kept teaching gym class in France, he never would have had these amazing stories to share with me. Anywho, 3 different ways to find these jobs. You could do the first way, which is like the first guy I met, and he just walked down to the docks and started talking to people and asking if people needed help. People do need help all the time because they can't be steering the boat 24/7. They need someone to help them. And so that's one way to do it if you live near some docks. A second way is there's a bunch of different websites online that help crew members match with boats that need crew members. And so you can check all those out. And the third different option is to link up with what is called a cruise rally. And this is basically a bunch of usually retired people who dream of sailing across the ocean, but they don't have any experience. And so they decide to do it together in a big group. Usually there's some kind of company organizing everything, and they need helpers to obviously run the boat and everything because they don't have any experience. So that's another idea, is to Google these cruise rallies to see if you can find any information on how to join these teams. All right, on to number 3, and I swear this is the last way to travel for free and get paid that involves water, and that is to work on a cruise ship, which is different than a yacht. There's way more opportunities out there, different types of jobs. For example, you could be a cook, a deckhand, a DJ, a fitness instructor, a daycare person. You could work in the souvenir shop, you could be a housekeeper, you could be a waitress, a bartender. There's a nurse, there's tons of different types of jobs you can do on cruise ships, and the cool part is that you don't have to pay for accommodation or food usually, and so what you earn, and usually you earn pretty decently, it all goes into your pocket, so it's a great way to save money. Now, these people definitely work hard, they work long hours, they're always together, but it's a cool way to also meet friends and build connections because you're always with your co-workers. You get to stop from place to place visiting these islands for short periods of time, and it's definitely hard work from what I hear, but it is super rewarding, and you can save money and do your contract, and when you're finished with your contract you can go travel and then do another contract if you want to, and kind of travel and top up your funds as you're traveling like that. To get started, you could research different cruise lines online to see what jobs are available. There's also another travel blogger, his name is Wandering Earl. He's been traveling for like 20 years, and for many years he worked on cruises and was able to work his way up the ladder to some pretty awesome jobs. He has a whole entire guide for people who want to work on cruise ships, so I'll link to that below. All right, next up on the list, this one is a little bit less little known than some of the other ones on these lists. I think it's pretty popular if you've been looking into this before, and that is teaching English abroad. Now, there are some countries that really want their people to learn English, and so these companies will pay for your flights across the world. They'll pay for your accommodation while you're there teaching during your contract. And so pretty much everything you earn goes into savings, and so you're able to save tons of money really fast. I've read tons of stories of people who have tons of student debt, for example, and they just go and teach English for a year and just save tons of money and pay off all their debt and then go traveling with extra. And so it's a really great opportunity. It's a skill you already have if you're able to speak English as a native speaker. You do probably have to get a TEFL certification, which stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. These aren't super hard to get. There's different TEFL courses you can take. Some of them are awesome and other ones are just garbage. I can link to the one that I took below, which I loved. They also have a brochure that helps you decide which country would be the best country to teach based on what you like to do. But this is a super awesome way to be able to travel slowly, build up your savings funds so you can travel other places, and in the meantime, immerse yourself in a different culture. Next up is to become a travel nanny, and a travel nanny is exactly what it sounds. You travel around with a family and you look after the kids so the parents can have a relaxing vacation. Now, each one of these jobs is going to be unique, but usually you get all your travel expenses paid for. You get to go to all the places that the family goes to visit, and on top of that, you usually get a stipend of $100 or $200 a week, depending on your responsibilities. And the responsibilities will also vary per your assignment. Sometimes you might be with the family and the kids 6 days per week doing everything they do, and then they might give you 1 day by yourself to go exploring by yourself. Either way, it's a pretty awesome opportunity if you love kids to see places, travel for free, and even get paid to do it. I have a full guide on how to become a travel nanny on the Project Untethered blog, so I'll link to that below. Guys, if you're liking this video so far and you want more travel lifestyle content and tips, please give this a like, and it will motivate me to make more cool stuff for you. All right, the next one is for all you shopping lovers out there, and there are 2 different ways to do this. It's basically to become a travel personal shopper. The first way is more creating an actual business and is more kind of a long-term deal. And the other way is just an easy way that you can recoup your travel expenses like flights and even accommodation by buying some things while you're traveling. Here's how it works. The first way, my wife met this one lady from Colombia, and her job was to fly from Colombia to the US. I don't know if she did it every couple weeks, and buy these fancy luxury exotic items for rich Colombians. Because in Colombia, they have kind of limited options on super luxury things to buy, and so this lady would fly to the US or wherever it needed to be, pick up some exotic rare breed of dog or some jewelry or a purse or something, and bring it back, and would charge a commission for the service. Apparently she's doing well for herself, because the last we heard of her, she had a super fancy condo in Los Angeles, and I can't even imagine how much that cost. And so this could actually be kind of a long-term career. You just need to have the right connections or be willing to build the right connections. The second option is way easier and way more for normal people who just want to casually get some money while they're traveling to cover their expenses. And this is something that we have actually done ourselves, which is pretty cool. And that is to start kind of like a super mini import-export business, but on a super small level. Here's what I mean. Basically, you find products in different countries where in one country this product is cheaper, and in another country this product costs way more. And then when you're traveling from one country to the other country, you buy it here and you sell it when you get there. Easy peasy. So let's say, for example, you're in the US. In the US, a MacBook, a certain model of MacBook costs $1,000. But in the country you're traveling to, you find out that the same model MacBook costs $1,800. And believe it or not, this isn't unheard of at all. There really are these price differences. So let's say before leaving on your trip, you picked up 2 of these MacBooks in the US, or wherever you are where it's cheaper. You flew to this other country where it cost $1,800, and let's say you sold them for $1,500 each. That means you just made $1,000 profit, which should cover your ticket and probably a bunch of your accommodation. And the people who bought it got a $300 discount on a computer. Now, this is obviously less risky if you can find buyers to commit before you actually invest your money, but that's not really 100% necessary, especially if you're giving a really good deal and you're choosing a popular product that has high demand in that country. And normally Apple products, I'm just giving an example here, are pretty popular, like iPhones, MacBooks. Everybody wants those, and so you can be sure wherever you're going, there's going to be someone who wants to buy it at a discount. Just be careful though, warning, make sure to do your research for whatever country you're going to see what the laws are involving bringing in new products into the country. They probably have a law saying what the maximum value of new products are they can bring into the country. There might also be a rule saying how many of the same type of product you can bring in, so just make sure you be careful so you don't break any laws. Also, you want to be careful selling expensive products like MacBooks, for example, to a stranger if you're in an area with high crime. For example, in Colombia, if I were to sell it to a stranger, I'd probably make sure I sell it somewhere that's in an enclosed public area, maybe with security guards nearby, just to be safe. And this doesn't have to be expensive electronics either. I've also heard about some other travelers who bought a suitcase full of those llama sweaters from Peru, and they brought them all back to, I think it was New Zealand, their home country, and sold them for like 10 times the price of what they bought them for. And so if you can get creative like this and figure out what the arbitrage opportunities are, you can recoup the cost of your tickets and accommodation and maybe even have a little bit extra. All right, the next free travel tip is a combination of some different strategies. House sitting plus travel hacking plus digital nomading. Let's start with ingredient number 1, which is house sitting. House sitting allows you to score some pretty awesome accommodation around the world for free in exchange for looking after the house and maybe taking care of some pets while you're there. I won't go into too much detail on how to do this because we've already created a full guide, which I'll link to below, but it's a pretty awesome opportunity. We even met a guy one time who traveled around Australia for 5 years from house sit to house sit, and I don't think he ever had to pay rent in 5 years. The second ingredient in this recipe is travel hacking, and travel hacking can be a huge rabbit hole, but I'm gonna keep it simple for you. You can do some pretty epic things if you want to learn all the ins and outs and loopholes and whatever, but what I do is probably the simplest way possible, and we've saved thousands of dollars each year on flights. Now keep in mind, the opportunities are going to be different depending on what country you're from. Luckily in the US, where I'm from, there are a bunch of amazing opportunities to do this. And basically you find these different credit cards that have these huge sign-up bonuses for different points and miles. And in order to get these sign-up bonuses, you have to spend a certain amount of money. Usually it's a few $1,000s, could be less, could be more, in the first few months of opening your card. So what I do is open a card, I put all my normal living expenses and everything on there, and you can even plan opening the card around a big expense that I'm going to have anyway. Then after I reach the minimum spend requirement, I get a huge buttload of points. Normally these are worth between $500 and $1,200 worth of flights, or sometimes even cash back. From there, I just toss the card aside and repeat the process. Now there's a couple keys here. The first key is you have to pay off your bill in full each month. If you don't, the interest payments that you're gonna pay kind of defeats the purpose of the rewards that you're getting. And 2, some of these cards have annual fees, so before the end of the year comes, you're gonna wanna call and see if you can downgrade to a different card that doesn't have annual fees. If they don't have an option for this, you have to decide if the annual fee is worth it or if you just cancel the card. If you use the strategy wisely and don't spend more than you would anyways and always pay off your bill on time, it can actually raise your credit score because you have a bigger credit line, which means your credit utilization is smaller, but I'm not going to get into all those details. Just know that over the short term, your credit score might take a small hit when you apply for new cards, but over the long term, it should grow. And so as long as you're not planning to take out a new mortgage or get a new car loan in the next 6 months, this is a perfectly safe and even a really smart strategy. The best cards do require higher credit scores, so if you don't have the greatest credit score, you have to build your way up to this point. So now that we have free flights and free accommodation out of the way, the cherry on top is digital nomad work. Because if you're house sitting, you'll have the perfect workspace to squeeze in some online work here and there to top up your travel fund. There are tons of different ways to do this, and we even made a video on the easiest digital nomad jobs to start, which I'll link to below. But the one I personally use is freelance writing, and it's allowed us to fund our travels just working part-time. All we need is a laptop and an internet connection. I actually made a full free course on how to earn your first $1,000 freelance writing, and so I'll link that below too if you're interested. The next way is to join a work exchange like Workaway or Worldpackers is another really popular one. These are different platforms that connect travelers to unique work opportunities where you can trade your skills and your work and service for free accommodation and many times free food as well. There's tons of different things that you can do. You could teach, you can do ecotourism activities, you can work in a reception in a hostel or a bed and breakfast. You could do bartending work in the community. If you know how to do websites or SEO, you could help businesses with that around the world. Basically, there's tons of different options all around the world. And if you're tight on cash and you don't mind traveling slowly, this can be a great way to travel the world for free. If this sounds interesting to you, I'll leave a link down below that has a discount to sign up for Worldpackers. And next up is to become a travel writer or journalist. Travel journalists travel around the world scoping out unique and interesting stories to publish in big publications. To do this, you have to be able to uncover interesting stories, dig out unique angles, and all that sorts of stuff. And the best writing and editing jobs for major travel publications, the ones where they pay for your trip and they pay you to do all this research and travel around the world, those usually require years of experience, and so you have to build up to that. But there are other ways that you can travel for free writing while you build up your experience. One way would be through travel blogging. Now there's a bunch of different ways to monetize a travel blog and earn money travel blogging. You can earn from putting ads on your site or earn from putting recommendations on your site and earning affiliate commissions for different tours and travel insurance and booking websites and those types of things. Or you can go the influencer route and trade publicity to your audience in exchange for free trips, free hotel stays, free tours, and all those sorts of things. This requires a pretty sizable following on your blog or Instagram or YouTube or whatever other social media you have. And so you need to build up to this as well. But once you do, you can trade this influence that you have for free trips. And if you're big enough, they'll even pay you to come take a trip. Now, many people don't have the time or the know-how to plan an epic trip to a different country across the world, but they do have the money to pay someone else to plan it for them. And that's where you come in. You can find these groups of people, plan an epic trip for them, charge a little bit extra for your troubles, and with that money, you can fund your own trip and basically travel for free. If you can do this, you basically just created your own tour agency business. Now, there's two approaches to this. One is to organize trips always to a different place around the globe. That way, you never get bored. You get to see a bunch of different places, and if people like your tours, they are probably going to be repeat customers in the different places that you go. The downside to this is it's going to obviously require a bunch of extra research and time on your part because you're always going to a different part of the world. On the other hand, you could start giving tours just to a country that you love and know well or want to know well, and that way you can put in all the research one time, plan an epic itinerary, and then just bring people to these awesome places multiple times in a row. Doing it this way also allows you to connect with different restaurants and hotels and tour companies, and you may be able to negotiate better deals if you're always going to the same places, which leaves more money in your pocket. Then, once you master one destination, you can start moving into another, and to another, and to another. There's several different travel bloggers who actually do this exact strategy. So if you want an example, check out Wandering Earl or the Broke Backpacker. So I briefly mentioned this already, but my absolute favorite way to earn money while traveling is to become a digital nomad. It really gives you the ultimate flexibility. As long as you're connected to the internet, you can earn money. And if you choose a job that lets you set your own schedule, you'll have tons of time to explore amazing places. Best of all, if you earn in a stronger currency like US dollars or euros, and you're traveling in a cheaper country, your money goes way further. If you're interested in becoming a digital nomad, I made the internet's biggest, most detailed guide on how to do it. I'll link to it below. There's also a video if you prefer videos. Make sure to subscribe to our channel if you want more digital nomad and travel tips, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.